Wow. Yeah, it's always so nice to be here. We have so much fun, actually. My darling baby, she's just on another level. We're talking about sharing. We always say share, like. But some of us don't know how to do that. But that's besides the point. So welcome again to the channel. Always nice to be here. In fact, it's always a pleasure. I'm so honored, to have this space. What technology is doing for us in this age and time is just mind blowing. I could sit in my little corner of the world and reach out to many of us all over the world. It's something to be grateful to God for. But I think it's also something we need to ask God to keep us, abreast, understanding that He is the all-knowing. There's definitely more. We were just saying that probably by the time those that are born today, like now, in another 20 years' time, when we are saying we knew technology or we know technology, we'll be wondering, what? Mom, you don't know how to share? You don't know how to subscribe? It would be another level of doing these things. But all that being said, you're welcome again. Thank you for stopping by. Thank you for all the comments, the feedback. Always a pleasure to share. And today I just want to share about something we can use, a big topic called flourishing. How do you flourish? How do we move forward? How do we make use of all the opportunities and all the blessings that have been sent our way, the education we've been given, the knowledge we've gathered, the time that we're in? How do we make the best use of it? I think it's really towards the idea of flourishing, of making an impact, of being relevant in your time and your space as it is. So I'm going to talk on what I would call the 3 Ds: decision, discipline, and determination. You really need to have an understanding of what that means. So the first one, which is making a decision, decide, right? I have decided I want to die empty. What does that mean? Everything that I have learned, everything I've been able to gather through my life, I want to be able to pour out onto those so that they're not making the same mistakes I made. They're able to take the baton and run even further than I have. How sad it will be if I have something, I've learned something, and I've not been able to teach it to the next generation, either as a mother, an academic, or an architect, or a sister, a wife. I should be able to make impact, and each of us should be able to make impact wherever we find ourselves. So that is a decision you could make, that I'm going to seize every opportunity to make an impact. So you make a decision, and maybe in your decision, you find that to make an impact, you need to equip yourself. You need to have a vision. You need to think beyond yourself. You need to look out and start seeing what has happened. How have people navigated, the journey that you're going on? So you need to make that decision that I'm going to plant a garden. I'm going to build a house. I'm going to improve myself. I'm going to be a good wife. I'm going to be a good mother. You make the decision. And the next thing you must do is actually write it down. That today, me, Dr. Judith Ojo-Aromokudu, I'm going to make an impact. I want to be the best teacher. As an academic, I want to teach my subjects properly. I want to be able to have a good understanding of it so that when I'm teaching it, I am pouring out, I'm opening up, I'm creating a space for learning, for teaching and learning of my students. Even with my children, I want to be a good mother. I've resolved that I want to be present. I want to be accessible to my children. I don't want to be so busy that when they call, I'm not there. No, I don't want that. And towards that, I've written it down, and then I've implanted it in me that this is what I want to achieve. Whatever your decision is, don't just decide and leave it in your head. The book Habakkuk 2:2 says, write it down, make it plain on tablets, write it down. Write it in a diary, write it in your Bible, write it somewhere, write it on your phone. By the way, I was with some young adults at our church, for their fellowship last week. And I was saying to them, I noticed you guys don't write things down, because none of them had a notebook and a pen. And we're like, Mav, We write on our phones. I'm like, wow, okay, that's good. So wherever you write these things down, write it down. Make it your screensaver. So when it pops up, you remember that I'm going to have a good relationship with my mother. I'm going to work at talking to my father once a week. I'm going to reach out to my son once a week. Write it down. Make it plain on tablets. And then the next point will be to set a deadline. So if you decide I'm going to call my son once a week, set a date. Decide that on Wednesday, I'm going to call my son on a Wednesday, 6 a.m. Every 6 a.m., I must call him on a Wednesday. Right. So as soon as the phone rings on a Wednesday, 6 a.m., gosh, mom is calling. Fine. He'll pick the call, or he may not. And eventually he may just know that, oh, she's checking on me. It may be about you picking up your studies again for whatever reason. Maybe you've dropped out on your studies and you are really considering going back to it. And then you know that September, October is the time when applications will open. Then you write it down and say, September, October, I'm going to make that application. What do you need to do before then? Maybe you need to call up the institutions and find out, when does application open? When is the earliest time you can send in your application, or what is needed for the application? For instance, in the School of Architecture, if you're going to apply for architecture undergraduate, you need a portfolio. And that portfolio may be due in October. So between now and October, you can start sketching. Sketch your garden, sketch your room, sketch the garage when you go there, sketch the sunset, the sunrise, sketch a tree, sketch yourself. You start putting together a portfolio. Right? Sketch buildings that you like. You go into the CPD and you see buildings, just make a sketch. Take a picture of it. When you go home, start drawing so that by October, your portfolio is ready. When it's time to submit, it's ready for you to submit, and then you apply. So that is the third step, setting the deadline. Then you may also want to write down the steps, like with the portfolio for the application in October. There are some steps that you need to take. You may need to apply for your transcripts. So what are those steps? What are those steps that you're going to take one step at a time, so that when October comes, that portfolio will be ready? Maybe you even need to start getting into the habit of studying, because you're going to start studying. So you create that time, you have a desk, you even create your mental well-being, for studying. These will be part of the steps that you will take towards achieving that goal. Then you need to organize the to-do list. You now know all the steps, put them in the order. What must come first? What must come after the other? And then how are you going to plan it out, so that it doesn't become a panic, like, hey, I'm going to register in October, so everything must stop because you want to register in October. No, you could do one thing this month, one thing in another 2 weeks, another 2 weeks, and then step by step, you organize your to-do list. It may even be about looking for references. And from now, if you need a reference towards an October registration, you may need to start developing relationships. Start looking for the correct references, people who can give a reference about who you are and what you've done in the past, So you organize all that. All this is towards that October application. And in fact, on that to-do list, you may need to put together a team. You may need to ask somebody to keep you accountable, putting together your team also to help you. We are in community to help each other, to help you to get to that objective is also another step you could put on your list. You may need to talk to your house help nicely, or start treating them nicely, so they they are happy to come to work. If you've not been giving them food, you now say, don't worry, just in fact come and live in with me, because you know the objective you want to achieve. And then you put together, you organize yourself so that you are working towards that application in October. If you write everything down, you've decided, you've written it down, you've set deadlines, you've put together your team, you've organized your to-do list, and you don't take action, it's like you just wasted your time. So you need to now take action. What is the first step I need to do? How do I go about taking these steps towards achieving that goal? Practical ways of taking that step. Take action. Don't just read. You've said write it down, search. You've now read all the books and you don't do anything about it. It's like knowledge is energy. And then we went on further to say, no, knowledge is potential energy. So now you know what to do. It's given you the potential, you have the capability, but you actually need to take action. Take that step of faith. I mean, getting onto this channel, it's something that I've been told over and over again that I need to do. And I was like, am I sure? Can I do this? You know, I like my private space. And then God was able to send me somebody who I consider, this is just what she does. And, you know, it's like, it's not that difficult. So I took an action and I asked her, will you be able to, but even to ask her, I had to get her phone number. So I asked, so do you know this person's phone number? I said, yeah, I know her phone number. I can send you her phone number. And I got the phone number. I could have gotten the phone number and sat on the phone number, not doing anything about it. But I called, right? And we had a chat. It's like, okay, I'm not really, maybe we should sit together and have a chat about this. And so we sat together, we had a chat about it. And it's like, okay, you're thinking about this, you're thinking about that, So pulling your team together, looking for help, asking for help, reaching out for support, accepting the help also. Some of us are so proud, we don't want to accept help, sometimes we need help. That's why we are in society. But along the way, despite deciding, writing down, setting the goals, organizing yourself, taking action, that first step of action could be a failure. Then what do? You resolve to keep at it. Say, yes, that didn't go well. Maybe your actions were not really well received, or your thought was not what it was, or you did not just communicate properly, or you did not set the steps out properly because you didn't know. It's just a learning curve. So you resolve to keep at it. I've been there, done that. That's not the right way. Cross it out and move on. So all in all, I think for us to achieve those milestones, those goals that we set for ourselves, those targets that we want to hit, some of us would say before I'm 30, before I'm 40, before I'm 50, hopefully it's not the same goal you keep on pushing. Before I'm 30, you didn't make it. It's okay. Before I'm 40, the same goal. No, you have to check yourself. What is going wrong? What are you not setting right? So it brings to mind also that idea of the SMART acronym, which says you must do what? SMART. What does it say? So you want to have those things that are achievable, so you don't have a goal to say before I'm 30, then you don't make it. And another 2 years, 32, you now say before I'm 40, you still don't make it. And then at 41, say, ish, I didn't make it. Before I'm 50. No, you need to check. Are you setting realistic goals? And are you really planning it? So you need to make the decisions. You need to be disciplined and you need to be determined, And in part of the discipline, we would look at your time bound, the SMART acronym. You want to be able to achieve those goals. But I think more importantly, you must be determined. We really, really need to be determined on how we would achieve those goals we set for ourselves. So if you are bold enough, you can write in the chat, what are your big goals? Could be about weight. I know us women, we talk a lot about our weight. What are those big goals? And what are those big goals that you need a team for? First person on your team with God on your side. The acronym, with God on our side, we can do all things. And then your experts, people who have been there before. Find a mentor. You may need a mentor in every different areas of your life. Find one that you could reach out to. You are comfortable with being yourself, not pretending to be somebody else. And then your team, your support structure. Your support structure could be your family, it could be your colleagues, whatever support structure that you need, and be determined. If you knock, doesn't open, what does it say? Seek and you will find. Knock, ask and it shall be open. If you ask, it's not open. What do? You knock. Yeah, where I'm asking, I'm knocking, and then we'll be able to achieve those objectives. Right. So I hope that helps. Thank you once again for stopping by. I'm really, really glad that you could be here. Bye.